Hey, marketing friends, and welcome to the first episode of Rewriting the Masters. So, this is a little series that I'm doing. Essentially, it's a copywriting exercise that I do. I take emails or other materials written by some of the best in the world, A-list copywriters, and I call it theme and variation. So, I'll take their original work and then apply some of my own copywriting techniques to change it in some way that I find interesting. This might be rewriting a section, it might be changing a hook or an angle, it might be changing a problem or a solution or any other element. And I want to share this because I think it's a really valuable way to improve your skill, to take something that already exists and not necessarily make it better, but to ask yourself the question, if I was writing this, how would I make it my own? How would I tackle this concept or this theme? Or how would I write the exact same piece, but do it in a way that either matched my voice or my brand or something like this? So I'm going to show you an email written by David Deutsch and then my variation on this very same email, which in this case comes in the format of my response actually to this email, but using the same structure. So you'll obviously notice here, if you're seeing the video, if you're seeing the audio, you won't notice this, but colors in the different sections. And so these different colors don't mean something specific, it's just to delineate different sections of the email. So then we can compare and contrast David's and mine because I've expanded and contracted certain sections. So let's get to it. Hi, Andrew. Copy written by the legendary Jim Rutz was like popcorn, so buttery, salty, and delicious that if you just take one taste, before you know it, you've consumed it all. It didn't just keep your interest, it made you hungry for more. So there's our intro. Then moving on. One day I asked him what his secret was. How did he use to keep the reader devouring his words? A little bit of a typo there. Um, Regardless, so how did he keep the reader devouring his words? I wanted to know his techniques. Instead, he told me about how he used to sell Amway products door to door, and when he sat down with people, he could see in their eyes when they got bored. So he would say or do something to get their full attention back. He said when he writes copy, he pretends he is sitting across from the prospect, and he never wants to see that look of boredom in the prospect's eye, that he lives and writes in mortal terror of that. Of course, I was disappointed that he didn't reveal some cool techniques for making copy more interesting, but I realized over time I got something much greater, a mindset for making copy more interesting. Today when I write, I see the prospect across from me, about to walk or click away, on the verge of boredom. I try to constantly write in a way that will keep them watching or on the page, and from ever having a look of boredom cross their face. And I live in mortal terror that he or she will stop reading my copy, click off the page, or throw away my megalog in the trash, which forces me to constantly inject my copy with clever turns of phrase and with ideas, words, and subject matter that are fresh and new, not the same tired copy they've seen 100 times before and will see 100 times again. Read your copy over. Watch your prospects as you do. Are they walking away, checking their phone, dozing off? It's very hard to sell prospects if they're no longer there, literally or figuratively. Don't serve them plain popcorn. Keep their attention with copy that's buttery, salty, and delicious. All the best, David. And he has a PS that it's just asking a question. Cool. So there's the original, the variation. Again, I want you to keep in mind that the goal isn't to improve this email, not this time. Sometimes it might be that, but in this case, it's not about making this email better. It's about making this email different and taking the ideas and playing with them in an interesting way. So you might like my email more, you might like it less. Either way is absolutely fine. The idea that I want you to take away from this is to really just open your creative horizons, think laterally, and give yourself more options whenever you're looking to tackle whatever topic you're looking to tackle, right? So let's get to it. So here's the variation. Good day, David. copy written by the legendary Jim Rutz has been described as popcorn, in that just one taste doesn't just drive you to eat through the entire bucket, but it makes you hungry for more. I disagree. Jim's copy was like heroin, in that it doesn't just demand your attention then and there, but your utter devotion for a lifetime. The sort of devotion that drives you to sell your possessions, mortgage your house, and perform lewd favors in back alleys for spare change. As you can imagine, with persuasive power like that, many tried to cajole him into revealing his top secret techniques. But Jim understood supply and demand. He understood the value of being the only one with his unique gift. So, instead of giving advice, he would talk about how he used to sell Amway products door to door. How, when he sat down with people, he could see in their eyes when they got bored. So, he would say or do something to get their full attention back. Jim said when he's typing, he pretends he's sitting across from the prospect, and he never wants to see that look of boredom in the prospect's eye, that he lives and writes in mortal terror of that. Think about it. Sitting across from someone clacking away on their keyboard is painfully dull, even at 80 words per minute. But if you can make it interesting, then you should have no problem getting your words read with interest. So watch your prospects carefully. Are they walking away, checking their phone, dozing off, confused while you called them into your office to watch you type? It's very hard to sell prospects if they're no longer there, literally or figuratively. So don't serve them plain popcorn. Keep their attention with heroin. All the best. So there's the variation, and now I want to look at these side by side and actually show you the idea, how I was playing with these ideas. So the first one should be obvious, right? It's about the comparison of Jim Rutz's copy to popcorn to Jim Rutz's copy to heroin. So as you'll see, if you're seeing the screen and if you're just listening, you'll probably remember that the introduction in my case, in the variation, was a lot longer. So in the original, it goes to, David says, it doesn't just keep your interest, it made you hungry for more. And then he moves into the next section saying, one day I asked him what his secret was. How did he keep the reader devouring his words? I wanted to know his techniques. So after I've talked about the heroin and the devotion for a lifetime and selling your possessions, etc., then I'm going to go into the same problem section, essentially. So David set up the problem like, I wanted to get the techniques. That's the problem that he's trying to solve. I've chosen to play with that in my variant, saying, as you can imagine, so instead of talking about the techniques, I'm framing this as Jim not, instead of Jim, like in David's version, Jim is answering instead of giving David what he wants, he's giving him what he needs, right? In my version, Jim is essentially just being selfish. So you might like that more, like that less. Again, that's not the point. So the idea is shifting that from instead of giving people what they need, saying, okay, Jim understands supply and demand. He understands the value of not sharing this information. So instead of giving away this information, he's going to talk about these Amway products, right? So it's like his way of dodging the question in my option, which personally I find amusing, but that's really neither here nor there. So in this case, these two sections are the same in both emails. When then we get to the result of that in David's section, he says, of course, I was disappointed that he didn't reveal some cool techniques for making copy more interesting, but I realized over time that this mindset was even more valuable, etc., etc. Today, I do all of these different things to keep someone's attention and so on and so forth, right? I've totally thrown that out and said, and basically taken this idea of thinking about the prospect across from you, but instead I've changed the context, right? I think this is probably if we were judging this email based on something I was actually going to send out, this is too silly. It's not a strong part of the email, but it's strong in terms of creative muscle building, which is, again, that's the goal here. So I've changed the context from someone sitting across from you and you're reading them your copy, engaging their reaction, to someone sitting across from you and they are watching you type copy, right? So kind of ridiculous, uh, but I've condensed. David writes probably around 100 words here, maybe 75 words, and I've condensed it to essentially 4 lines. Think about it. Sitting across from someone clacking away on their keyboard is painfully dull, even at 80 words per minute. But if you can make that interesting, you should have no problem getting your words read with interest. And then leading into the conclusion where David's saying, I also keep this pretty much the same, other than the final couple lines, right? So David says, are they walking away, checking their phone, dozing off? Don't serve them plain popcorn. Keep their attention with coffee that's buttery, salty, and delicious. My version has, well, an extra line. Are they walking away, checking their phone, dozing off, confused why you called them into your office to watch you type, to drive home the previous idea? But then the rest, it's still following the exact same structure. It's very hard to sell prospects if they're no longer there, figuratively, literally or figuratively. So don't serve them plain popcorn, keep their attention with heroin. So doing the exact same thing that David has done structurally, tying the initial idea to the last line, bringing things full circle. So doing that is the exact same thing here. So there's our theme, there's our variation and the explanation for the thoughts behind what you saw. Somewhere above or below or around this video or the audio, if you're listening to the audio, I will have a link to this document so you can check it out for yourself, look at the side-by-side comparison. And I'm looking at doing some more of these rewriting the masters episodes, so I'd love your feedback, love to know what you thought of this, if you found it valuable. If you didn't find it valuable, that's also valuable to me. And if there's something in particular that you'd like to see or something that you noticed that you'd like more analysis of, then let me know about that as well. But that's all I've got for you today, so I'll see you in another video soon.